saw a tweet from Elon or something about it. I'm like, okay, I gotta check this thing out. And I asked it to do something, and I was sitting in a Panera, and I was just like,
Okay.
hands on my head, watching it just type out this script like perfectly.
I think a lot of entrepreneurs just, hey, I'm 18, I'm gonna jump in, I'm just gonna do this.
I don't like listening to directions.
I don't like listening to directions. I want to be my own boss. And I think that's a misconception because you end up having 20 bosses, and those 20 bosses are your clients. The best piece of advice I ever heard was, don't chase the dollars, chase the value, and the dollars will come.
For everyone that's watching, thank you for coming by. This is Phil Pearson. So Matt and Phil own a company called Modi Video Productions. I got connected with Phil from a friend from college who watched the podcast, said, hey, Dylan, I think the podcast is a great idea. Do you need help with anything? And I said, yes, I need help with editing because I can't keep up with it. And so we met because we'll talk a little bit about what your company does in a second. He connected me with a missionary who happens to be his father in Nepal, and now we have a bunch of really cool things happening. So
Yeah.
It's been awesome. Our friendship kind of just taken off because of a guy named Clayton.
Yeah. Clayton's the man.
Clayton is the man. So tell me a little bit about Modi. I'll give you a quick little introduction. So how old are you?
28.
You're 28. I thought we're the same age.
We're the same age,
So
which I don't run across like a lot of
No.
entrepreneurs who are just exactly my age. Most of them are like older or established, or they're just getting started.
And they're babies. Yeah. And that's why I was super excited because you meet people that are just as hungry. They're just as driven. And I'm like, I want to just take from the knowledge that Phil has as a fellow 28-year-old. You're married.
Married. Yeah.
You have a kiddo.
First kid. Yeah.
First kid.
Yeah.
And
10
where,
months.
how old? 10 months. So sleeping schedule,
He's
get in
great.
there. Oh,
He's
angel.
great. And yeah, everybody watching that's a parent will be like, screw you, man. How did, we just got really blessed, right? Because I mean, he's sleeping through the night. So we're doing pretty well.
Yeah, I'm getting pretty nervous. So Anna's due. So my wife and I are having our first kid in May, and it's going to be a girl.
Dude, congrats.
Thank
That's
you.
exciting.
And so I just have a feeling the oldest girl is going to be a pain in the butt. I have a feeling that like the first kid is going to be
That's what
this-
you have to kind of expect.
Yeah.
And
I hope I'm wrong.
You're happily surprised when you get to sleep a little more, maybe.
Yeah, that's
But
right.
it's
I don't
all-
sleep anyway, so I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
There you go.
I just stay up all night. Right. I'm excited. We're gonna. So speaking of kids, and we'll get back to video because it's exciting. Basically, Anna said there's one thing that she doesn't want to skimp on, and I want to know if this is true. She was saying that you don't want to skimp on like, I don't know what to call it. Like it's like a recliner for the baby's room. Basically, it's like a place to sit. You can feed the baby, you can snuggle the baby, but
Yeah.
we've been given the advice that if there's one thing to get, it's like a chair that you can just have in the baby's room and like it'll recline, it will whatever. And like
Yeah.
so Costco has one, and there's ones that are like $3,000.
They're so expensive. I
So
didn't
do you guys
realize
have something like that?
We started looking, right? And it's like the same thing. You got to have it. And the funny enough, we just ended up going with like a $300 one from Target. And
Yeah, I think we were looking at that one.
yeah, it's like
Does it work?
gray. you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
It works.
I think we were looking
It's
at one
fine.
from Costco.
It's kind
Yeah.
of weird because I don't know, for whatever reason, it doesn't ever feel like you're truly just sinking back in. You have to kind of push yourself back.
Hmm.
But when you have the baby, and
I mean, it was $300.
it was $300, I couldn't believe the price tags on some of those things, though.
Like $1,500.
Yeah.
That's
Like
when
starting.
Anna
on
literally
some of
sent
them.
me one, and she's like, "I really think we need this." And I'm like, "Well, if we sell both cars in the house, we'll at least have a
Then
chair
we-
to sit on
You have a chair to sit on.
in our cardboard box
In your
on the
cardboard.
side of Fort Street."
Oh goodness. No, I was shocked that we didn't use it for the first like 6 months.
Mm.
Like we didn't need it. We never. He hated it. Frankly, like when we sat down,
You cry. So
you
you
just
were you just
start
like
crying.
walking around.
We had to walk around and like nonstop. Have you heard of Dude Dad?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
He's hilarious.
yeah. So he had a piece on that where it's like, we got this really expensive chair, we got all this nice stuff, and he's like hopping around on one leg with the baby, trying to put him to sleep, and so it depends. Now we use it a little more to sit in to read books together before bed, things like that. But
The funny thing about Dude Dad, I almost said him and his wife, but then I realized like he normally is also the wife. Like there is episodes where his wife shows up,
No,
but he
no.
plays
he plays the wife.
both sides, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Did you know that Dude Dad got connected with Joanna and Chip Gaines?
Oh, good. That's
so
cool.
he also is like super handy, and him and his wife started like a fixer upper
No way.
type channel
Did they
on the
do a show,
Magnolia
though?
Network. Yeah, it's on the Magnolia Network.
Oh, so Dude Dad came to Chip and Joanna
Yeah.
Gaines, and they're doing a fixer upper with them.
But it's separate. Like Doodad has its own show. Like
It's
not a part
legitimate show.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh, so he's not doing.
So
the
Chip and
social
Joanna
stuff.
Gaines, have their own Magnolia Network where they've actually like
What?
partnered with a bunch of
That's
like
amazing.
either like believers or people that
Okay.
like haven't been given a shot before, and
Yeah.
so they literally like they're off of HGTV and they started their own network. Their old episodes are still airing on HGTV, but they started their own thing.
I don't know how he comes up with that stuff.
No,
Honestly.
I don't know either.
Like I've sat down, try to create. We do stories,
funny skits or
and writing scripts. Like on the way down here, before the podcast, I was on the phone with Ryan, just talking about this one idea we're trying to come up with one line, and we can't figure out that one line.
Chat GPT.
We've been.
Have you tried it?
No, yeah, we did.
Yeah,
we've been using it more or less for some things, for some applications, but it's way more powerful than you think.
I've kind of, I don't want to get political, but there's a couple of things about Chat GPT that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Have you followed that at all?
Well, I know it's a product of OpenAI,
Yep.
which is owned by Elon Musk.
Yeah. So, here's the weird thing though, is if you ask Chat GPT, and people have done this, like give us a poem about Biden, it'll give this beautiful, eloquent poem about the leader of our country. Then if you ask Chat GPT to give you a poem about Trump, it'll say we try not to talk about politics.
We don't talk.
Literally, and it's side by side. They did it for like 30 people, and they would talk
crazy.
up Democrats and they wouldn't talk up Republicans. It was insane.
Well, I've also seen,
because it's from developers, right?
Right.
Like I don't know where AI is, because the idea of AI is that it's going to be able to think for itself, problem solve, and have the codes to be able to like eventually generate answers without any type of human input. That's the whole AI piece. But it has to start from developers' hands, right? So developers' biases,
and they've been gathering information for past 2 decades, and it's just all getting funneled into that. Is what I think.
But do you think developers' biases are unintentionally influencing where AIs will be?
It's a good question. I mean, Elon Musk himself said
he tweeted this. He tweeted ChatGPT. He's the one that tweeted all of this crap about he's like, this doesn't make sense. This should be, he said, what did he say? They said,
you own the company. You can't own the company.
I know.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't.
But I don't know enough about it. Like I haven't looked into it enough, but I would Elon Musk even said he can AI. He's like
almost
apparently
scared
there's
of
this
it.
secret board, that has like the button on AI that they all talk about it, and he's not in favor of it.
I know.
Yet at the same time, it's he's pushing it.
Yeah.
And robotics. So I think he's probably changed his mind. Okay, so if we just strip that all away, politically, what I think of AI is like it's a great opportunity for to be used as a tool to build
100%.
on. If you don't adopt it, you're just going to slow down in your production and your productivity. So if you can adapt it and then build on it, throw in your own secret sauce,
I think you're going to be behind if you don't use it.
I mean, like we literally just generated a script the other day for a client on Chat GPT, tweaked a few things, sent it off, and he's like, great. And it took us like 10
We responded to an
seconds.
email. Yeah, correct. We didn't know how to respond to something, so we went to Chat GPT and we came up with a response. I actually have an interesting video idea where I want to use a Chat GPT cold calling script and see if
it can work.
See if I can close the client.
You should do that.
Yeah, or as
that
a
would
video
be extremely
idea.
Interesting.
Yeah, I just have to actually hit record.
Yeah.
But I'm not really I'm OCD about video production. So like I get petrified of hitting the record button until I feel like I have the perfect video in mind. And if I don't have the perfect video from like start to end, scripted, I don't hit the record button.
So we all kind of struggle with that.
Yeah. So
just getting going and creating content.
Because I don't want it to suck. Like I want it to be a good video. And so
you want to put effort behind it. And then here's Chat GPT just creating, scripts on the fly, and so asking it to create a script, and then I think that's a brilliant idea. You just have to figure out how to.
Like my mind was blown. I didn't know what ChatGPT was like a month ago, and then I went to it because I heard I saw a tweet from Elon or something about it. I'm like, okay, I gotta check this thing out, and I asked it to do something, and I was sitting in a Panera, And I was just like,
Okay.
hands on my head, watching it just type out this script like perfectly.
Yeah.
I said, like, create a cold calling script for a small insurance agency. And it was just like, hello, my name is Dylan. I am the, blah. I'm like, like my brain just couldn't handle.
I think like anything like repeatable in your company, you can start to use AI in it, like figuring out how to systemize it and have it run the process for you. It's just a matter of, I think there's so many, like right now, there's softwares where you can start to plug in things where it pull sound bites and creates shorts.
Yeah. There's podcasting AI too.
Okay.
So like if you have two cameras, it will basically toggle between the two talkers and like create cuts and stuff automatically. So you might want to watch out for that, because like it's coming.
Watch out for it, but then
or learn how to implement it in your company.
If you can implement AI, you can continue to accelerate your growth as a company.
Correct.
And so my thinking is AI can't add that personal touch, right? Like it can personalize something, but not specifically to you.
Correct.
Like it won't tell you Elon Musk's what he's thinking right now, where he wants to go. It'll tell you where he's been essentially, but it can't create a compelling story that's centered on real life.
Correct.
So that's where I think documentaries, that's where I think storytelling is. You can build on AI with that personalized aspect of it.
So you think that AI can help like a video production company, for example, scale, like maybe they
absolutely
couldn't scale before.
Yeah. I mean, you can have it do so many things now. I know we haven't fully adopted like all these. We're just testing things out. I'd say we're probably like not early adopters. We're just getting into it, and we'll probably be like in the middle, just because there's not as much need to just jump into it as quickly.
Where you guys are at right now.
Yeah, where we're at right now, we're trying to figure out how to implement it more. But I know like some people have just used it to up-res, images, video, correct audio that wasn't even there, create you can fix a lot of problems. So
that's it. You can also create a lot of problems. People are like voice dubbing people that didn't say things, and like it's getting interesting. I read an article where they're basically like they should stop allowing voice recordings to be used for court cases because AI is getting so good at impersonating people's voices.
Yikes.
It's crazy. Like where we're going to,
it can incriminate someone
that they didn't even say something. Yeah. I was watching a guy do it like a Zoom call, and he had a voice changer on, and he's like,
hey, this is Joe Biden. This is, Bush. This is.
And it was like, it was unbelievable what was coming through the speakers. And so that's going to be interesting to watch how, as AI, I think AI is the next, it seems that AI is the next the next thing in technology that's booming, right? So you had the internet age.
Yeah, sure.
And so the .com era, the internet age, and then, maybe you could argue electric cars has been the big thing recently. And then all of a sudden AI kind of seems like it might be the next 10-year just like explosion.
Yeah. Have you worked with any like manufacturers? Like we're in Detroit, right? And there's a lot of manufacturing going on.
Yeah, we do. We have a good amount of factories, but we don't really get into we'll walk into the factory, we'll see the robotics and stuff happening, but then we just really talk to the staff. So we don't, but so we have some, but.
The robotics, manufacturing 4.0. Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
So it's just where it's fully systemized from start to finish without any human interaction. And so that's where it's going. Like manufacturing 4.0 is trying to be adopted by at least the biggest manufacturing plants out there. You still walk into places and they still have 50-year-old, 100-year-old equipment running. But at some point, those people are going to have to start to adapt to like manufacturing 4.0. I think AI is the same thing in creative fields. Like you're going to have to adapt. You can't keep, like still today, I see people who are like right click copy, right click paste. And I'm like, there's this control C, control V.
Yeah, correct.
Like that's so like last year or not last year, like last decade. Right. So but that mindset, those types of people who couldn't figure out the control C, control V, if they can't figure out AI and how to adapt, those are the types of people who are going to go out of business. They're just they're not going to be as relevant. They're not going to be able to keep up.
And it seems like the job market is shifting from like especially in blue collar Detroit, potentially going from factory jobs to like we need IT jobs. We need like that's so if that's the boom, the next like that might be the next big job opportunity in Detroit is
I think it could be
technology
IT.
and
I mean Tesla, cybersecurity is becoming a huge concern with EVs and everything that's computerized. I mean, hacking cars, like, can they happen? Absolutely.
Yeah, Tesla I heard that they would pay people to hack their cars because they're so
figure out how to
they're so afraid of that happening.
Yeah. So the cybersecurity, but on all fronts, like it's not just about going in and stealing data. It's about going in and just deleting it. People it's the real estate of technology is data. You say data or data?
I say data. And data.
And both.
I say both.
Okay. I've heard it both ways.
I don't know. We'll go with data.
But so data, right? That's the real estate of the creative field. It's the real estate of technology companies. And if you can just go in, hack in, and delete data, you set them back years. So it's not about, because nobody knows where to put it either. Like you have these massive, right?
You can't do printouts of all this stuff. That's the thing. Like you don't have enough filing cabinets.
No, but have you seen like Amazon where they keep all like the cloud, right? The cloud is a physical location, right? Like
it's like big server rooms, right? It's just
huge server rooms just in the middle of deserts, with security, fences up and 24/7.
Right by Area 51, probably.
Probably.
Yeah, it might be in Area 51 for all we know.
Yeah, we don't know. But these places are all over the place. And it's physical real estate. But we think, we're uploading it to this.
It's safe somewhere on a server, yeah.
The moment that doesn't become, safe, like someone goes in and you have a Chinese,
balloons all over the place,
just like dropping bombs on these data centers. It's like, what does that do?
You can cripple a nation, yeah.
What does it do? I don't know.
Well, I think that's been my fear of.
I'm just going down this rabbit hole.
I love we can't. I love this rabbit hole because this is my fear of electric. If we make everything in our nation dependent on electricity, like literally, it's like you literally bomb electric grid, dude. We're toast. Can't drive our cars. We can't charge our phones.
Right.
We can't get our files because we need juice on a battery or something. We need internet.
Data.
Like data. The data is literally like everything to function is on electricity. Our grids are so old.
Yeah.
That like, dude, if in the past you'd have to drop a nuke. Now you just have to drop like what's that kind of bomb called that like EMT, whatever that is. You know what I'm talking about. EMP. Not EMT, they help people.
I know. I was like, my brother-in-law is an EMT. If he hears this, it's like, what are you talking about, dude?
No, thank you, EMTs. Yeah, EMPs. Like that's it.
Yeah.
Like, nation crippled.
Right.
That to me is where my mind runs. And when we talk about making our cars electric,
literally every OEM is pushing EVs.
Production stops. Like, think about that, right? We can go down this rabbit hole for a long way because I am interested to see.
Did you watch the Super Bowl?
Yeah, regrettably.
Okay. Yeah, it was
fun. It was a great game until the
the last like kick of the game is just like, okay.
Yeah.
But this is where I'm going with this. So there's a couple ads, right, that ran, and everybody who doesn't watch the Super Bowl for the Super Bowl watches the Super Bowl for the
ads.
The ads.
Yeah.
And Ram had one. Did you see it? It was a kind of a dig at the current EV push, which I thought was extremely timely from a marketing perspective. I was just actually literally before the Super Bowl, I was having this conversation with a friend at church who is working at Ford. He's an interning. He's an intern right now working. He goes to school at Kettering.
Okay.
But he's been doing some internships at Ford, right? And he's on this team that's developing a camera that can read a light and they can communicate back and forth. So a bike light specifically. And actually really cool stuff. I couldn't understand half the things he was telling me. I'm like, dude, just dumb it down. I like it simple. But we got on this topic of EVs and how like literally every OEM right now seems to be pushing this EV. I was just telling him like, where did the hybrids go?
Mhm.
Like they would literally be the perfect vehicle in today's market where we're at with gas prices going up. At least a year ago, they were
Mhm.
like skyrocketing, right? And then you had people who just wanted that daily commute on an EV, where they can get back and forth. But they
Maybe
don't
like
want
50 miles, yeah.
they don't want the range anxiety. They don't want, all the hassle of like having to, the financial burden of having two vehicles, because you literally just can't have one vehicle if it's
Correct.
going to be an electric vehicle. It's just not practical.
No.
Like there's not enough practical aspects of it. So Ram came out with this commercial during the Super Bowl, just saying like, hey, like highlighting all of that and saying, hey, we're going to be doing the EV stuff, but not too soon. Like it was just like hey, it's coming, but
Yeah,
we know
not-
that it's not quite. It's just a big dig at all the rest of the OEMs that are like,
which I love.
it's here now.
Yeah.
But I would have loved to see a hybrid launched.
Yeah.
Relaunched. And I don't know why
that's
they went
what
away.
we're looking at, a hybrid for our next car. I mean, it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Like
My grandparents have a hybrid. They
Yeah.
love it.
and they're actually getting to the
But
point where they're
they all discontinued them though. There's no hybrids that are being made right now.
you mean like American made, like, or across like American
made.
Yeah.
But
You're right.
across
I
the
know-
most popular OEMs, nobody has hybrids unless they're like before 2020.
Really? Okay. I know the one we were looking at was a Toyota one they're still making. So that's good. So
Oh, cool.
Toyota's still making a
Toyota.
Highlander.
I like their ads too.
So yeah, Toyota's fun. So Toyota's making a Highlander, which is like an SUV hybrid.
It's a hybrid. Okay.
Mhm. And
Good for
it's
them.
and so
They
they're
should lean into that though
they should
way more.
It's so
in
dude,
their marketing.
your
Like, their
SUV gets like
marketing's-
38 miles of the gallon. Like as an SUV, goes
Yeah.
0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds or whatever.
There you go.
Because
Sweet.
it's so smart what they've done with hybrid technology. In the past, hybrids were slow and they didn't get up and going very much. But what they've done now is they've used the electric current because there's no it's an immediate torque. I don't know if you've ever driven a Tesla.
No.
When you put your foot down, it's immediate power. Like
Yeah.
there's no turbo lag.
Right.
So what they've done is they've used that punch, that electric punch, to get the car up going, and then the turbo kicks in.
Okay.
So they've timed it to where there's no turbo lag. So they use the hybrid motor to get the car initially going, and then the engine, gas
switches over to
engine,
gas.
switches to turbo. So
Seriously.
now
Wow.
like hybrids are getting like Toyota Crown is a sedan that they're coming out with.
Okay.
That it's like a sedan / SUV hybrid. It's a hybrid max engine, and it goes 0 to 60 in like 4.8 seconds.
Wow.
And so like they're
That's nuts.
using the technology of electric and mixing it with that gas.
So taking the best of both.
yeah.
Like why did you have to just go straight to
makes
like
sense. And
let's
that-
save the world and do EVs? Well, these coal power plants are literally fueling the EV productions.
Yeah, and the best part, and we'll stop here.
Yeah.
We'll camp out. So the thing that blows my mind, and we'll kind of leave it at this for this thing, is like when we say, hey, we're not gonna get oil here in America, but then they buy oil from overseas. But then it's like, how does it get to America? On big freighters
Mm-hmm. that
that need oil to run,
Yeah.
that puts oil in the ocean.
Right.
That like it's just, I can get on that tangent. Maybe we should just do put on our the YouTube video. This is a political podcast, just so people know, and just talk about all the double standards there are.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't make sense.
There's an endless amount.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. So tell me, let's transfer to Modi. Obviously, you have a lot of knowledge when it comes to video production. Obviously, you guys are jumping into AI, which we just took 30 minutes to kind of talk about where AI is going, and that's exciting.
Still figuring it out. Yeah.
It's a lot of new stuff. But what I'd love to do is talk about the start. Obviously, on the podcast, I interview entrepreneurs. If you're new to the podcast and you're still with us, I bring entrepreneurs onto the podcast and we talk about what it's like to get started, hopefully to motivate a lot of you out there. If you're sitting there on your couch or at your desk and you have headphones in, you're listening to this podcast and you're like, hey, I've thought about starting the business, but I've never had the courage to pull the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
Either I want this to be a motivational thing, or I want you to be like, yeah, I never want to do that. It'll give you at least some sort of clarity on
Make a decision
us
one way
crazy
or the other.
people,
Yeah.
if it's a good fit. So if we could just kind of go back in history to before Modi was inexistent. Did you go to college?
Nope.
Okay,
I went to community college for
You
a
went to
couple
community
semesters.
college a couple semesters. When did you first be like, I think that I want to be an entrepreneur. I have an idea for a company. Like, where did you meet your partner? Like, let's kind of
Right.
start and that story.
Okay. Well, I didn't have the typical start where it's like 18 years old. I had my ice cream stand, or I just ran into a guy who's like so driven, so like he's gonna go far, but he had that mindset, and he's 18 years old, and so my dad always ran a company for 27 years. He had a gutter installation company, blue collar, and I saw that lifestyle, and I always wanted that for my own family one day. Like being able to spend Saturdays together, being able to make it to all of our games, being able to. And I saw the flip side of that, where other dads were tied up with work until 6 p.m. Every day, or they had to work weekends, and they just didn't have the control to say, that's not what I'm going to do with my life. So I wanted that control to some degree. But little did I know that at the start of a business, you have less control. It takes time to get there. And my dad, I never really saw that because he had started his own company, and by the time I was, able to really observe that, he had it for 10 plus years kind of thing. So I saw the good stuff of being a business owner, where it's like, you've made it, you have the lifestyle you want, you're making 200,000 a year, just pocketing that, and growing the company and hitting over $1 million, in revenue. And so like, I saw the benefits that lifestyle, or that revenue and that entrepreneurial mindset
journey
could bring from my dad. But I just never knew, like, I never thought, yeah, that's for me necessarily. I wanted to get into video primarily. I was just passionate and excited about it. We shot videos when we were kids, in our backyards, that typical story.
Yeah.
And it was fun times. And then when I got to 18 years old, I had been going to community college for, like, I was dual enrolled because I was homeschooled. And I had racked up a couple credits. But I was like, I don't really want to go into college. Like, it's just not for me. I want to take a year off and go overseas, do some missions work. So I actually ended up going to South Africa for a year and a half or so.
Okay.
And there was this initial training that I went through. It's called a missions discipleship training program through Operation Mobilization.
Okay.
They're similar to like YWAM or other missions organizations like that. But while I was there, I got to shoot more video, and I had people back in the States helping me to do this, right? It was kind of like a family and friends fundraising. Hey guys, can I do this, for 6 months? And they're like, sure, we'll support your dreams.
Okay. Yeah.
It's like, so, there wasn't this entrepreneurial mindset at that point, right? Where I was just like, give me money and let me go to do this. And it was awesome. I still think of those people and the impact that their generosity had, because that year and a half was like the most life-changing experience I had. 18, 19. And I think I came back around when I was 19 or so. And I got to shoot videos though, while I was in South Africa.
Okay.
And then share those back instead of writing up a newsletter and saying, hey, here's what I'm doing. I shot a video and sent it back. And I was getting this response from that. Like, they were really excited. It was really cool for them to see the visuals. And back then, most people just wrote an email and sent it off. And
thanks for your support. This is what's going on. Yeah.
This is what's going on, and then take an hour, half hour, read through it or whatever. And I didn't want to do that. So I really I wanted to do that more, but I wanted to do it in a way that helped other people, other organizations, other missionaries. So I wanted to be able to shoot videos, bring them back, and help raise more support so they could continue to the work that they were doing.
Okay.
So from that aspect, that's where I got back, and I was like, I want to get into video production. So what did I do? I went out and I worked a blue collar painting job for 4 years in Birmingham.
That helps. That helps you achieve your dream.
Yeah. It was the first step that I needed to take to, for one, just add some skill sets. Like I just need to learn to work hard. Like I had worked for my dad over the summers. I had worked at a vet clinic, when I was 16, and I was doing all these things, but I never just learned to provide for myself and figure all of that out, work for someone, have a boss. I think a lot of entrepreneurs just, hey, I'm 18, I'm going to jump in, I'm just going to do this.
I don't like listening to directions.
I don't like listening to directions. I want to be my own boss. And I think that's a misconception, because you end up having 20 bosses, and those 20 bosses are your clients,
Mm.
and they're telling you what you need to do, and you
Yep.
got to deliver.
Yeah, honestly,
Right?
that's what it's like.
Yeah, so it's not like it's this fallacy I think that a lot of
Mm.
entrepreneurs have that like, hey, I'm just gonna jump into this from day one and figure it out, and you stick with it, you can. But I guess looking back, it wasn't necessarily an intentional choice to do that. I wanted to get into video, but I realized the benefits that had of sitting under someone
Mm.
who was telling me what to
Sure.
do, and I had to follow directions.
And you just had to work hard,
I had
and
to
you
work
had
hard.
to, even when you didn't see the reason for it, and
keep my head down.
keep your head down and grind.
Yeah, and paint, right? One of the most boring, construction jobs you could have. I love the payoff at the end when you get to look at the wall and it's like,
Looks
cool,
sweet,
it's a
yeah.
different color, and yeah, that's awesome. But the sanding, the prep, all of that along the way, right? Honestly, from that job, I was able to remodel my own house because I learned other things along the way. Had people who could come over and help me install new cabinets and so there was I learned these really practical skills, got my hands dirty, figured out just how to do all of that. But then I started interning as an editor, working as an editor part-time for Matthew, who's now my partner. So I was on that path to going full-time into video and video editing. And Matthew said, don't go to school for this. I was thinking about going to school, enrolling, working at the same time. He's like, don't go to school. Just come on. I'll teach you everything I know. His schooling wasn't as impactful for him. He said, I learned more just getting out there and doing it. And I knew for me, that's how I learned. I wasn't an A+ student. I was a C student, B student, mostly Bs, but there's a few Cs, no Fs.
You're talking, yeah.
Anyways, but I just was scraping by in school. I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to learn hands-on. And so he gave me that opportunity. Well, then we figured out we're video guys. We're not business guys. We like doing video. We like shooting videos. We like telling stories, creating content. But we don't know how to sell, and we don't know how to run a business effectively. So whole wake-up call there for us. And you've probably been in that same boat, right? As an entrepreneur, just getting started, you're bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, ready to go. And it's life just kind of smacks you in the face.
So talk to me about two things. Were you married? When did you get married in all of this?
I had been married. So I've been married since I was 20. Wow. It's been 7 years.
I won't tell your wife. She probably won't watch the podcast anyway. So
No,
you don't have to
she
know.
won't.
You have to. You don't have
Whenever
to
we
know.
talk business, she's like,
I'm out.
Yeah.
Tell her that we talked about AI. She'll be really
AI.
interested.
No,
Yeah.
she's freaked out about that. I'm like, it's not that crazy. She's like, yes, it is.
It's
Don't.
don't talk
don't
about
do it.
Yes. So you were married while.
So I was married at 21.
Okay.
And that was I was still working painting in construction. So when I moved and made that jump into video editing and doing that part-time, the jobs dried up and we didn't have any more work. And I was at a fork in the road now where I had taken this step. I had gone full-time at that point. And I was just editing. And then I was brainstorming with Matthew, hey, what if we did something together? What if we partnered up? I start taking on more of the sales. We figure this out. I put myself into a few networking groups just on my own dime, just to get the word out there more on what we were doing. I was buying courses, learning along the way, things that I add to my, so coursework was huge in my learning process as well. Rather than going online, I found someone specific who could tell me what I needed to do.
So you went overseas to painting 4 years.
Yep.
Then you took an internship. Then the job started to dry up, and you guys had a choice at that moment. You either said, "Okay, I need to not work with Matthew and find something else.
Yeah.
I need to we need to figure something out, or we just start our own thing."
Yeah. So
And
just
so-
to
yeah, go-
paint the picture there,
Yeah.
we're at this crossroads, right? And it's a big deal. My wife's working, thankfully, and so we had that income coming in. But we had started a company called Modi, right, which is now that video production company that we run. But back then it was Vision Media Pro. That was Matthew's company, and Modi was a mobile video editing service. It was a subscription, actually. And we thought this is a great idea. Let's build up 100, 200, 1,000 subscribers, paying us $100, a month, and we'll build the subscription service and we'll just templatize the edits. It sounded really cool. We were excited about it. Well, it all rode on business owners recording content. And how often do business owners record content?
Never.
There's no time.
Yeah.
They don't want to do it themselves. They have more money than they do time. So there was this factor in it all where it wasn't going to ever work because business owners just wouldn't take the time to send in the footage, fill out the form. That's all they had to do. But again, I don't hold that against them because I'm a business owner now, and it's like you just don't have that kind of time. So it fell flat on its face. But we were making $600 a month at that point. At that point in the company with Modi, when we partnered up together and went 50-50 on Modi, we were making $600 a month for two guys who had families. And
was that each or combined?
I think Matthew had his first kid on the way. Well, no, not quite, but yeah, it was combined.
Nice.
So it was with $300. Let's split it and let's make
big
this
money,
work.
baby.
Yeah.
Big money, baby.
Let's go.
Yeah.
And no, it was 6 months later. We took our first paycheck of like $1,000, I think, for that month.
Yeah.
So it was rough. It was a rough start.
So that's interesting. I mean, it kind of reminds me. I won't get into this now. We'll talk more later. But like, I made $300 a month, and I got married. Like, and I'd been doing a sales for only 4 months at that point. So it resonates with
tight.
me.
Yeah.
Definitely. So talk to me about your first client, because I think a lot of the hurdle for a lot of people, they're like, I haven't done sales. I don't have that type of personality. Someone watching might have a really good idea. Like their idea is killer, but they're afraid of the sales because sales is scary. We have to go and deal with objections and talk to people. So how did you guys get your first client? What did that feel like to be like, we finally have a client? And then we'll go through the list of some of the, well, I'll tell you right now. So like Modi has now worked with companies like Quicken. I saw on your website, correct me if I'm wrong, Ford, some stuff with them. There's a big client list that they've worked with. And probably in a second, we'll play one of their videos. I mean, it's unbelievable, the content these guys have created, the stories they've created for these brands. So talk to me about the first client.
Sure.
And then if you wouldn't mind, talk to me about the ends
you for that
with.
Plug too.
You're welcome. I mean, dude, it's sweet. Like I don't worry. I read your whole website. So like
we're redoing it all, by the way. No.
It's okay. Well, because it looks like trash. No, just kidding. It looks great. Like I even texted him. It looks great. And I'll put the link down below. Check them out. It's cool because like if they have a big list of big companies, but it didn't start there. So like talk to me about, for what I do, I have a brand behind me that is a very well-known insurance brand. So when I started, it was very easy for me to say, hey, I'm with this insurance brand. That gave me credibility as a person.
Sure.
But as an entrepreneur, when you start your own company and your own branding, there's no like nationwide credibility behind you guys. So how did you leverage not only being young, like young kids starting their own company with their own branding and convincing somebody that you're like, hey, you pay us money and we will give you a good product. So like, sorry, that was a lot of talking.
A lot of things come into it. I'll start with our first client, which it gives you like this wind, at your back that you feel like you get some momentum going. Our first client, it was like you start to get into desperation mode. Let me back up just a little bit. So we're somewhat in desperation mode, right? And when you get into that mode in sales, what happens? People just turn and run from you.
Correct.
Like they do not want anything to do with you because you lack confidence. You're coming off desperate. You want their money, right? And you're like, yes, I want your money, but I believe in my product and I believe in what we're doing, but it doesn't come off that way. So we had this dog trainer over, funny enough, and this guy gave me probably the best piece of advice that I could have heard at the time. And he was saying he was an entrepreneur and he ran his own company and he came to people's houses and trained their dogs. And we had just got our first dog. And woo, you're good.
Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, everybody's ears.
So anyways, this dog trainer, he's too expensive for one. Like we couldn't afford that, and I don't know why we decided to bring him over. But our dog was chewing up things and just making a mess of the house. Anyways, I was just telling him a little bit about my business that we had just started. And he's like, the best piece of advice I ever heard was don't chase the dollars, chase the value, and the dollars will come. And that to me was this wake up call that if I just stay consistent, continue to provide value to people, looking to help them, it can, in turn, that will turn into results. And so I started doing that more. And that was like this change in how I did sales, listening to people, building that relationship, figuring out what need they have, what problem they have, so that you can bring in that solution. And you don't have a lot of belief at the beginning in your product, in who you are.
Yep.
There's a lot of insecurities when you're getting started as a business owner. So it's tough.
Yeah.
But over time, as your product continues to work and bring those solutions time and time again, it builds a lot of confidence. And a couple clients later, right, and we're doing a lot better. But we decided to make the jump into this new office space when we had no money. We were working in 100 square foot office space, right? It just felt drab. The lights were, dim, and the walls were, bright yellow, and it's just terrible. It just didn't feel like you need somewhat of that leveling up to make you feel like you're legitimate in your mind at times. So that's why responsibly, but we made the choice to jump into a new office. And the moment we did that, we landed our first recurring client who would actually be using the office and paying the exact cost that our office costs. So it was like a break even thing where we could be in our office, and this client was helping us take care of that for creating videos, content for them. So it was this immediate like, okay, we can do this. And then you get another lull, and it's like these ups and these downs. But we were able to land a friend of ours runs a YouTube channel, Welker Farms. They're out of Montana. And we started editing for his YouTube channel back then. And it was that recurring, steady work. I think the first video took us like 20 hours to edit just because we were figuring out the style and all of that. And we eventually got it down to like, I think 4 to 8, just depending on the content. But those 2 clients coming in the door were huge, just to getting some recurring revenue going and building on
So
that.
were both your clients relationships that you guys have previously made in careers, or did you?
One of them was a networking connection that we had through our local chambers.
Yep.
Our name got out there, and people were talking about video. Timing with the market is pretty big too, where I don't look down on people who are starting print shops right now, but is that really the good timing with the market? There's a lot of really good established print shops. You still need them. But is it hot? Is it trending? Is it going to continue to grow? Is the need going to grow? Video was one of those things where it's like back at the start, when we got this going, we're in our 5th year now. We had to do a lot of education around video.
Like why it's important.
Yeah, why it's important.
Yeah.
Most small business owners are like, I don't think I need that. I got my website. I'm good. I'm writing some blogs. That's fine. It's like, well, video's that first impression that you can create online. It's that the most real version of yourself online that you can create right now. Now we have VR and all that coming out, but it was just this. We were on trend to some degree, and because we were young people, also we actually saw that as an advantage. People saw that as an advantage, so they looked at us and said, "Okay, these guys are young. They know video. Let's get them in, and they'll figure out how to make this work." And so that's where it started.
Networking, some relationships, a little bit of luck, a little bit of prayer, all kind of fits in there.
Lots of prayer,
and a little bit of luck, right?
Yeah.
Do you? And then I guess I want to kind of take this. I want to camp at this for a second. Do you feel that you guys have, after 4 or 5 years? So statistically, if you make it 3 years as a business owner, your business is going to succeed. The first 3 years are where most business owners, like businesses, die.
Yeah.
So if you can make it over that 3-year hump, it's like, okay, we are in at least a comfortable mode. Now we're still in growth mode, but whatever. You guys have brought some people onto the team. I know it's always that balance, and this is what I'm struggling with too. Like we bought this office space probably before I was able to buy this office space, and it's always like,
it always feels like a risk.
One step ahead. So you revenue 200,000 and you're like, great, but then your expenses get caught up, and then you revenue 400. How do you guys balance scaling, like with growing and then also making sure that you can handle the growth that you're doing? Because if you keep growing, you have more clients, you have more current clients, you have that work that needs to get done.
Right.
But then you make these hires and work slows. Like, how do you guys balance and make those decisions?
Yeah. I'm not the best person to answer that. Matthew is our finance guy. And it comes down to cash flow, and that's always been a challenge. It's probably one of the biggest challenges for most businesses is just having cash flow so that you can keep growing and scaling, and then making smart decisions along the way. I just think contracts, like I think back to contracts when we secure a retainer client, it's like a 6 to 12 month retainer where we're creating content for them. Well, that gives us this confidence to bring on someone to help fulfill that retainer. So it's like this, and that's how we hired our first employee. Was we landed 2 after our Bronco short film.
Yeah, I saw that. That was sweet.
For Father's Day, we landed 2 clients out of that, where we were able to secure around $10,000 of recurring revenue, so we could bring on our first editor, Ryan, who's now scaled into producing, and we're looking to hire again, because we just landed 2 more retainers as well in the YouTube space. That's just how we've done it. Once we have this contract locked in, we bring on an employee.
That makes sense.
So we've never taken like this risk and just said, all right, hopefully the sales are just going to keep coming in as
fingers crossed.
Now, I think we will eventually have to make that risk.
Yeah.
But if we have like a good proven process and a steady stream of revenue coming in from sales, then we can make a more calculated risk. I think most business owners are risk takers, and everything feels like a risk.
Yeah.
Like getting into that new office, even though it was $700 a month, it just felt like a big risk at the time, going from $300 a month.
Yeah.
And then when we went from the $700 a month to our now office of $2,000 a month, it's like, this is a big jump and it's a risk, but when we did it, it's paid off. Right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if we ever, we got over that 3-year marker. There's a level of security and legitimacy to who you are. You've built connections.
You have some confidence at this point. You know what your product is a little bit more.
We know what the product is. We know where we're living in terms of content creation. Even in the space where it's like, oh, we've got phones and you can create content yourself, and you can hire a videographer to shoot ads, and you can hire a team in Nepal to edit your videos. You can bring in AI here. Even in that space of like, wow, there's all this other stuff. We stick to, I think, what is the most impactful side of video, and that's storytelling. Like if you can't tell a really engaging story, then how is it going to resonate at the end of the day? So there's strategy and creativity to that, and that's what we bring with our clients. But yeah, we figured it out. We figured out that process of telling a really great story, and we're still learning new ways of doing that. But that's what we bring to the table, and that's, we don't steer away from that. Like we lean into that.
So to tell the people, if I said, what is Modi? Like, what's the sales pitch? I'm a business owner. I'm like, hey man, what do you do?
Yeah. So a lot of people, I guess the simple version is we don't just create videos, we tell stories. And a lot of times those stories take digging. It takes research. It takes figuring out your brand, understanding who you are as a company, and then telling that in a story form, starting with the problem and ending with the outcome and the moral of the story. Right? Like we all love a story. We all love listening to a story. If we talk in stories, and stories are what are most memorable. I was just recently at an event downtown in Detroit, and it was this learning event for entrepreneurs, and this speaker was talking all about story. And he asked a person in the audience if he could remember 3 things 5 years from now: porridge, a chair, and a bed.
Okay. 5
years from now, if I asked you if you could remember those things, do you think could you recite those perfectly?
Probably not.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Like 10 years from now, do you think you could remember what we talked about? Just porridge, chair, bed?
No.
Okay. But if I told you Goldilocks and the 3 Bears, it's a story. Now, do you think you could remember 10 years from now?
Sure.
What that was?
Yeah. I know where you're going with this.
Right. So
I like it.
He was just saying that the story, once you have objects and items in a story, it's memorable. So that's the power of story. So we don't just shoot videos, we tell stories. And if you can tell stories, you can be memorable. And people don't often remember what you say, but they remember how you made them feel. So if you can deliver a story that has feeling and emotions, you can leave a lasting impact on your audience.
Yeah, so I think that's a good lesson for anyone in sales. Like regardless of what they're selling. I mean, you guys as a company specialize in helping people find their story and then broadcast their story and distribute that story in the help that, they might sell more of their products or whatever. But in any sales job, and you mentioned this earlier, talking about delivering value, we have a phrase. Basically, it's products are fine, but stories sell. Even so, your job is to
Aflac knows
create
what they're doing.
stories. Yeah, we have a very good training program.
That's cool.
Like when we sell, we tell stories. Like I'll give you an example. So, if I said, "Hey, I sell cancer insurance. Do you want to buy it?"
Mm-mm.
No. Why? Well, I'm probably not going to get cancer.
Yeah, I don't
I
have
don't.
cancer.
I don't have cancer.
Yep.
But if I said this, I said, "Hey, I just had a client who was 25 and was diagnosed with lymphoma cancer or whatever, right? Was diagnosed with throat cancer or whatever the situation is. I can pull a real one out if we want to. Like, or I'll give you a real scenario. Hey, there's a woman, she was 50 years old with 3 kids. She was diagnosed with breast cancer. Their health insurance paid for a lot of the bills, but it didn't cover her missed time work. Then she was missing work going to treatments. Her husband was also missing work taking her to treatments. They also had to hire babysitters for the kids. So not only did their income slow down, their expenses went up because they had to pay their $5,000 deductible, and they had to pay for babysitters, and they still had to buy groceries, and their income slowed down. The cool thing about a supplemental cancer program is that it actually pays you cash to be able to live the life you're used to living so you can focus on the disease. And it generally starts around like $30 a month. I don't know about you, but people generally spend about $50 a month on Starbucks. So if what is it worth to you to get something like that? All of a sudden,
That's a story for you.
that's a story.
Yeah.
And so
And it bypasses, right, the logical part of your brain, and it immediately crosses over into the creative side that you just can't refute.
correct.
And everybody buys on emotion,
Correct.
right? But when you can paint a story of the real value you're bringing,
Yep.
and that's what you just did.
And it's a good product. I believe in what the product is. You're not going to be able to help somebody understand what a product is by just being like, hey, this is whatever. This is the product. This is how it works. Here's the numbers. These are the payouts. It's
Right.
like, this is either a story. You need to make them feel valuable. You need to help them understand what the value is that you're trying to deliver.
Right.
And you do that. And you said this earlier by actively listening. If you don't actively listen to a client, you're going to have no idea
Right.
where to go, what stories to tell. And so that's why, like, if we would run a business meeting, so if I was like, hey, I want to put benefits in your company, 70% of that meeting is me asking questions.
Yeah. Right.
And then
You're just
30% is being like, okay, by the way, this is what we can do.
Yeah.
And so if more people took that approach, if you're in any sales career, you want to start a business, like that's a really good point. I'm glad you
Right.
brought that up.
Start with listening, understanding the problem. You just were able to articulate the problem in that story at the beginning. Like what you did at the start was paint the problem,
Mm-hmm.
paint the emotional distress that they were in, the struggles that they were going through and experiencing. And you spent very little time actually talking about what you do.
Yep.
And most of us, I think in sales, like love what we do. So we love talking about it.
Correct.
Right. And even as business owners, if you're a business owner selling something, oftentimes you focus way too much on the actual product,
Mm-hmm.
not enough time on listening and articulating the
Yeah.
problem, understanding the pain that they're going through. But if you can figure that out, the solution is like, it's simple. Here's what we do.
Yeah. And so that's to me the special thing of what you guys do. Is you guys don't just do video production, because if you guys just did video production, I mean, I would Google like who has the best equipment, who has the best, like videos of examples. But you guys do more than that. You take it a step deeper, because it's like, we're not just going to edit for you. We're
Right.
going to also help you tell your story.
Right.
And that's invaluable. If that's why Super Bowl ads are so expensive.
Mhm.
They sucked this year across the board, in my opinion.
Most of
But
them, yeah.
the reason why, I mean, if you look at like the old Budweiser commercials with those Clydesdales,
Right.
like it had nothing at all to do with beer,
Right.
but it made people feel a certain way.
Yep.
And telling that story and that branding is like, that's invaluable. So if I was a business owner, I would work with like Modi or a company like yours that understands the value in storytelling in video, not that just wants to be an editor.
Right.
So I'm glad that you differentiated that. That's a helpful
Right.
helpful thing that people need to think through.
I think any video production company, if they're going to be a full service production company, they have to learn that. They have to learn how to tell a good story.
Mm.
And I would say we're still learning how to do that. We've gotten pretty far in that process of learning and asking the right questions and listening and getting to the bottom of what you're trying to do. but it's a process too. Some do it better than others, and the bigger your budget too, the more time you can spend in learning that story. And that's why, these commercials on I was actually just going to bring this up. I'm glad you brought up Super Bowl commercials. Well, there was this one last year. Who won the Super Bowl last year? I don't even know.
I don't even remember, man.
Right. Nobody. I mean, tell a story. Maybe somebody will remember. But there was a commercial for Bitcoin, and if you remember that commercial specifically, it actually broke the internet. Like the site got shut down because there's so many visitors after this commercial aired. And what was it? It was a QR code bouncing around on a screen.
That.
You remember it? Why?
That.
Why do you remember that?
Well, I did it.
Oh, you did the commercial?
Yeah, I was like, I grabbed my phone. I'm like, I don't know what this is, but I'm gonna
exactly right. And that idea, I think they paid like 1.3 billion or million for that ad. That took an editor probably an hour to create, but it was the concept, the creativity, the idea that it brought to the table. Was it an impactful story? Will we remember it like 10 years from now? Probably not. We're not going to be bringing it up and talking about.
But it did its job.
Clydesdales. It did its job. It had the creativity, the idea, and the intrigue to be a little different. So there's that side of it too.
Yeah. And what we're going to do, guys, so if you're with us right now, if it's okay with you, I'd love to play a video of your guys's on the podcast. Let me do that.
We could do that.
So if you guys go to motiveservices.com, I'll put the link below, and they have a whole section that talks about their work. And literally, like, I'm looking at their website right now, and there's a title that literally says "Every Motor Tells a Story." I love that because we're literally talking about telling that you do this, and there's proof. Like, you're not just blowing hot air up my butt.
Yeah.
So I love that. So we'll play.
Let's do the My Place. Summit Place Kia. It's a recruiting ad. It's short. It's like 30 seconds, so it won't take too much time.
So I'm just gonna hit play.
Yeah.
For me, it started in my driveway. I didn't want just any old job. I want a place that I'm passionate about that took care of me. There it is. And it didn't take long at Summit Place Kia. And before I knew it, I was working on my own vehicles, taking charge of my own career path. And what do you know? Now I'm the boss. Summit Place Kia, service department. I can help you.
Man, I love that. Can I tell you right off the bat things that I want to like dissect that. See
For
if
sure.
I can.
Let's do it.
So right off the bat, if you notice, there was steps. It was like step one. It's a recruiting ad. So it's a recruiting ad in a way. Like they want people to work at the company. But you didn't just say, now hiring, here are your benefits. Right. You told the story of a guy starting at the bottom of the totem pole, so to speak, ending as a manager or CEO. You told, and you said, step one, do this. Step two, do this, all the way to step four. And he was saying what people think. Yeah. So if I went to an average person that's unhappy with their current workplace, I said, hey, what's important to you? Especially our generation, they say, I want to feel valued. He's like, I want to not only work for a place, but I want to work for a place that feels valued.
Right.
And then I want to work for a place where I have control and I have upward mobility. And you hit all of those hot button issues that people think about, but you did it in a storytelling way, while every cutscene was him moving to either a different job within the company.
Yep.
And I love the fact that you used the same actor for all of them. And then it showed at the very end, he was at like a general manager position or some sort of boss position or sales position. Yeah. And it so you didn't say, he never said there's upward mobility here, but just the visual of him working through the different, it made, it's like, man, Summit, I kind of want to work there.
That was during COVID too, when everybody needed people. And so they were just throwing out money to hire on people on Indeed, spending $2,000 a week trying to find someone with no video, no background there. So that was a fun one, honestly.
Yeah, that turned out great, but it shows the power of storytelling. And so if there's any business owners watching this, if there's any entrepreneurs watching this, if you have something you want to sell, I mean, heck, if you're a mom and you're selling essential oils, out of your living room, stories are what sells. Stories are what gets buy-in. Stories are what makes it believable. And you probably do have a good product. Like I believe I have one of the best insurance products for what we do in the nation.
Right.
I can say that, or I can tell a story and actually help people believe it.
Right. A good product with a bad story won't sell. A bad product with a good story will sell. Unfortunately.
That's how it works.
Right.
And if you can combine the two,
then
it's game over for a lot of entrepreneurs.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you won't be racking up bad reviews and like, wait, I thought this product did this, and
Correct.
right. So if you have a good service with a good story, you can grow. A good product with a good story, it's a winning success or a winning formula.
Yeah, I love that we talk about stories so much. Actually, for those, I'm going to put the video somewhere up here. If you want to know if you think you should do sales, I'm going to put a link to a video I recorded 4 things that you need to know before you do sales.
Sweet. Yeah.
And one of those things is you have to have a good product. If you don't have a good product, there's no point in selling it.
Yeah.
My conscience doesn't even let me.
Right.
Like I couldn't do that.
Right.
But you need to do your research before you work at whatever company they're going to ask you. Like I can't tell you every day I get a pharmaceutical job offering for a sales rep every single day. And it's like, I'm not kidding. Base pay, $200,000.
Yeah. Crazy.
With commission.
And so why don't you take it?
Because the product sucks. Or I don't know if it sucks. I just don't want to get into pharmaceuticals. That's just something to me.
So
I'm
there's
not
2 things. There's
Yeah.
passion and a belief
Yeah.
in the product itself. Like
Correct.
when we first got started with Modi, it was a struggle to believe in what we were doing. And then people along the way helped bring that legitimacy, that credibility that we needed to hear. Like I remember sitting across from one of our clients, and we were just kind of babbling on and like stumbling over our words with price.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, stop. You guys are worth it. You're valuable. I love what you do. I'm willing to pay whatever it is. Just tell me the price.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, this is so relieving.
Yes.
Like that's what they're thinking.
Yes.
But the more you just kind of like hem and haw, the less credible you actually come across at the end of the day. Like if you're not confident in your pricing, if you're not confident in your product and you don't have that belief, it takes some time to get there. I'll grant you that, but I guess fake it till you make it. I don't like that phrase in and of itself. Like I think you have to have belief in your product, but you're going to learn what works and what doesn't along the way.
I think the fake it till you make it makes sense when you're talking about your own personal confidence. Like if you can't fake a good product, but you can fake how you're feeling. Mm-hmm. Like you can fake confidence. Like you might be inside freaking the crap out,
right?
But you don't have to let people know that. Yeah. I mean, that's one thing that's why I'm successful. And why I've been successful is I learned how to fake confidence.
Yeah.
I would be sweating. My back would be sweating. My hands would be sweating, but you would have no idea. You would have thought that I sold insurance for like 15 years.
Right.
Because I was confident.
Yeah.
And learning that's
good.
Learning how not to be
insecure,
especially when you're talking to a business owner 30 years older than you.
Right.
Learning that, yes, they have a lot to learn, but in this scenario, like I know my product. Right. I'm going to be confident that I can help you. Now, let me ask you the questions because this is the best part. Confidence comes when you know you can actually help them. And you don't actually know that you can help them until you actually ask them questions.
That's good. Yeah, that's
really good. But once you ask those questions, you're not just throwing up a sales pitch on somebody.
Right.
You're actually like, okay, I believe that Modi, or I believe England Insurance, or I believe that this is now a good fit. That's when passion kicks in.
Right.
That's when belief kicks in. And that's when it's just game over.
Game over.
Like they can't say no at that point.
Yeah.
You could, this is where I think Apple is an interesting example.
Okay.
People will pay stupid money for an iPhone. Stupid money for a Mac, in my opinion.
I still have a 10, but
I don't even have Apple. Nothing I have. I still spend expensive stuff for Google Pixel. Anyway, but we spend expensive money for let's say Apple for a long time. They were the premium brand. Now things are kind of equal. Like they're not necessarily more expensive than other stuff, but at least, Macs are pretty expensive compared to other PCs, right? The way that Apple made them feel, you're part of a family. You have an ecosystem of our brand. Like they literally created this family of Apple users. And so it made people feel a certain way when they saw the Apple logo on somebody else's phone. And they're like, man, I want that. I make $30,000 a year, but I'll buy a $3,000 laptop.
Yeah.
Because I want to feel a certain way.
And they've always started with that, in their marketing.
Yep.
They were competing. 1,000 phones in your pocket was their line for the iPod. Was it the iPod?
iPod Nano?
Yeah, I think the first one, the first rendition.
The brick, white.
The brick.
Yeah.
It was actually a terrible product compared to Microsoft had a product. I don't even know what it's called
an
anymore.
MP3 player? It's just an old MP3 player, or was it
Yeah, it could hold more songs. It could play,
Yeah.
But they marketed it off of the specs, and they still market it off the specs a lot of the times. I don't know why. Like when I look at Microsoft, it's like that's how they
There's a spec
advertise.
list, yeah.
Whereas Apple has always been, here's the story, 1,000 phones in your pocket. That resonates way more than saying, hey, we have 64 gigs or whatever. It was like maybe 1 gig at the time, but crazy. And that worked. It just blew up and they surpassed, Microsoft in sales and all of that.
Yeah. And they were double expensive and it didn't matter because that shows you the power of storytelling. I mean, even now Apple still like tells stories in a lot of their ads.
They do.
And they don't ever make it about the product. You're at the very end, you're like, oh, this is an iPhone commercial. Right. You don't even know halfway through what kind of commercial it is until you kind of see
That's what
a couple
I hate
emblems
about car commercials. They're always about the car. Nobody actually, except the car enthusiasts and the people, I think they're kind of in a bubble in their advertising. It's like, oh, we just made a really cool car and we want to show it, right? Like the Bronco, short film that we did. It wasn't about the Bronco. Bronco is the guide in the story. The hero of the story was the person using the Bronco and their story. And oftentimes businesses make the mistake of saying, hey, I'm the hero of the story instead of the guide.
Yeah.
And that's from Story Brand, Donald Miller. Like I recommend his book on that, just going through it. But it's the power of positioning yourself as the guide in the story, because the guide is always going to make the right decisions. They're going to do what's right for the client through difficult challenges. Whereas the hero of the story is always going to have ups and downs. That's your client. Make the client the hero of your story in your marketing.
Yeah, I love that. I think that gives us a good segue to kind of wrap this thing up. I have 2 questions.
Okay.
Because we kind of come all this to close. We talked about a lot today. We talked everything from, AI, but then I thought we got in a really good groove there and a little bit talking about like what it's like to give a good branding idea for a small company, for a small entrepreneur. But I have two questions to end us off for this episode. Sometimes on the internet, and it really ticks me off, is entrepreneurs make it feel, or these like internet celebrity personalities that started companies they now have billions of dollars. They make it seem like an entrepreneur is an easy life. They make it seem that it's like guaranteed that you're just going to make money. Just buy my course. If you buy my course, I'll show you 8 ways to make passive income and all this crap. Yeah. And so when I have entrepreneurs on the channel, one that, in this scenario, Phil didn't even finish college. He went and did a bunch of different careers until kind of God brought it to right the perfect timing. And then since then, like he said earlier, it took 6 to 7 months to get any type of decent paycheck from the company. What is an honest, if you could say this is what an entrepreneur life is like, in my opinion, just kind of give the good, the bad, maybe talk about like one of the hardest things you've gone through and then what's some of the best you've gone through. Talk to me about what is the hardest thing that you've gone through as an entrepreneur, familial, business, and then what's the best thing?
That's a good question. Where would I begin? It definitely is a challenge when you're getting started. It's always going to be a challenge getting something off the ground. You're going to have to put the effort in, the hard work, the later nights. But I genuinely believe that the best part of being an entrepreneur is a freedom of time to do the things you genuinely want to do and fulfill your purpose that you were put here on planet Earth for. Am I ever going to get the freedom of time, just stop working and do my own thing? I don't even think that would be enjoyable. Like I like work, and that's why I get up every morning and I get to go to work, but I love what I do. So there's a lot of misconceptions around entrepreneurship. And I actually think that whatever you want, you can achieve. Ultimately, like if you want to build a company and you put in the hard work and the time and the effort, energy, you can have, like I know people who've retired, at 40 with millions of dollars, and that happens. Like that can happen. But, it's not what I'm in it for. What I'm into entrepreneurship for is to not own a job, a 9-to-5, not have someone who's saying like, Phil, you need to wake up and do this and fulfill this. For the company. I want to be able to spend weekends with my family. I want to be able to make it to every single soccer game, essentially. Hopefully that Wes
play some soccer.
Yeah, we'll see. I got him watching soccer with me on Saturday morning, so we're off to a good start. But it's I want to do the things where family can come first and not second. and I want to do the things that I ultimately want to do documentary filmmaking, still. I want to go, and I was able to do that for the first time last year. We went to Honduras. We shot a documentary. We were there for a week, putting together videos now around that and around their sponsorship program. It's just, I'm passionate about it. I'm excited about it. So it gives me the freedom to decide, hey, I want to do this thing that I'm passionate about. Hey, and I get to say yes or no to that.
So that's your best part. What's your worst part? What's a hard memory that when you think back in the memory bank, there's a single, like, this moment I was at my low. Like, I didn't think we were going to come out. I didn't know if it was going to continue. Do you have a moment like that?
There's a lot of moments like that.
I know.
There's a lot of moments you're like, gosh, the cash is not in the bank. We're going to have to delay payroll for ourselves, pay everybody else, and not get paid. And then you see that bank account personally dwindling, and you're like, that's when the rubber meets the road. And it comes down to that financial struggle to get things off the ground. The moment I started making more than my job previously, I was like, sweet. But now I think it's just relative, right? Like I have more expenses, of course, as the family grows and you have kids, and so you have to provide more. But if I think back, there's not a lot of things that I would look at and complain about, because the hardest things that I had to go through, the times that we had to skip ourselves on payroll, the times that I had to pull a late night, or Matthews had to pull all-nighters at times to get projects done and edited for clients. And we've both been in that boat together. At the times where a dry season of sales, that's frustrating and draining. And, you start to lack, maybe self-confidence and all of that. But those, I think, are the things that would teach us the most in life.
Chip, I'm excited to see what both of our growth looks like in 2023.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Thanks. See you on the next one. Bye, guys.